My guests today are Bruce Miller and Byrwec Ellison with Citizens for Independent Redistricting. Before we start our interview, I wanted to give a little bit of background that's going to be relevant to the story. So the Race and Culture Task Force was formed on August 1st, 2017 in response to public uproar over the heavy-handed arrest of a Black mother named Jacqueline Craig and her two daughters at the hands of a white Ford police officer in 2016. So the task force was formed by Forest City Council to listen, learn, build, and bridge in order to create a more exclusive Fort Worth for all residents. And one of 22 provisions that they came up with and was adopted by Forest City Council in December 2018 was an independent citizen redistricting commission. So the city has gone a different direction. As we'll talk about, the city is working with a redistricting task force to develop criteria for redistricting Fort Worth to allow for the expansion of Forest City Council from 8 to 10 council members. The final recommendations will be presented to City Council in March, and 2 new council members will take office in 2023. So there's a lot going on with this city this year and over the next couple of years. So I'll open by asking, what is your group aiming to do?
Well, the Race and Culture Task Force, as you pointed out, recommended that the city council maps be drawn by an independent commission instead of being drawn by the elected officials. And they dropped this. First, the Race and Culture Task Force proposed it. The city manager also backed it at the beginning. The Race and Culture Task Force had 22 recommendations, and this was the second or third one. Then, several months later, the city pushed back against this. There were a group of people on the task force that were in charge of their governance section, and some people that were involved in bringing the idea of an IRC to the task force that were very disappointed. In fact, a number of people on the Race and Culture Task Force were disappointed. I myself followed what was going on in that task force, and I got to know some of those folks, and we started meeting afterward to try to see if we could rescue this idea.
And so your group is trying to do what exactly right now?
We're trying to keep the idea of the Race and Culture Task Force in front of the city and in front of the population. We think it's important to do everything we can to ensure that the process they follow is as open and transparent as possible.
So let's back up and get a good definition of what we're going to say IRC a lot today. That's an independent redistricting commission. What is that?
It's a group of citizens that are independent of the elected officials that apply through an unbiased process to serve on this commission. They have to be devoid of any connections that might provide conflicts of interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they have a series of public meetings where they explore the way communities are divided in the city. And they pay very careful attention to the distribution of minorities to make sure that they are represented fairly.
Why would this be necessary or important to Fort Worth?
If you look at Fort Worth, we see that for people that are affluent, it's a very good place. But if you look at some of the features here, we see that in 76104, we have a zip code with the shortest life expectancy in the state.
Yeah.
We see a transportation system that's not very useful if you have to commute to work. There's a kind of unevenness in the way different parts of the city have been represented and supported. And an IRC could do a lot to help change some of that.
We're in 2021 now. So what makes this year important as far as taking this matter seriously?
We're going from 8 to 10 council members. So we have to start from a clean slate and redraw 10 districts in Fort Worth. So it's an optimum time to establish an IOC.
Okay. And if we miss the boat, we have 10 years to wait. So we don't want to do that.
That's right.
So here is the draft criteria that the current task force has come up with. The highest priority ones are they've expanded their description of minority voting rights by saying we want to comply with the US Constitution, the Voting Rights Act, the Texas Constitution, and other applicable laws. What that boils down to is they don't want to disfranchise minorities. They want to make a good faith effort to allow minority voters to have representatives of their interest. On a lower priority, they wanted compact districts. And for the first time, they've applied a certain technical metric to that. They want identifiable geographic boundaries, such as major roads, city limits, railroad tracks.
We don't really think that separating them by priority is such a good idea. Calling the ones that they have to do high priority, you can't really assign a priority. They're just legal. And so the other ones are the ones that really represent the thinking of the task force.
Bruce and Byrwec, it's been a really fun, interesting conversation. We appreciate your insights, and we encourage folks to get involved.
Thank you, Ed,
Thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate
Thank you very much.
very much.